The knock came at sunset, 3 sharp raps that echoed through the empty ranch house like gunfire, and Logan Garrett nearly dropped the tin plate he had been washing for the 3rd time that week. Nobody came out to the Garrett ranch anymore, not since his father died 5 years ago and his mother followed 2 winters later. The isolation suited him fine, or so he told himself every morning when he woke to silence, and every night when he ate alone at the scarred wooden table that had once seated a family of 6. He dried his hands on his worn trousers and crossed the main room, his boots heavy on the floorboards. Through the window, he could see a figure on his porch, backlit by the amber glow of the Texas sun sinking toward the horizon. A woman's silhouette, slender but standing with her shoulders squared like she was ready for a fight. Logan opened the door slowly, squinting against the light. She was younger than he expected, maybe 23 or 24 to his 29 years, with dark hair pinned up under a dusty traveling hat and eyes so green they reminded him of new spring grass after the rains. Her dress had seen better days, the hem caked with trail dust, and she carried a worn leather satchel that looked like it held everything she owned. "Are you Logan Garrett?" Her voice was steady, clear, with an accent that spoke of education and eastern cities. "I am." He kept one hand on the doorframe, blocking the entrance without being overtly rude. "Who is asking?" "My name is Zelda Graham." She shifted the satchel to her other hand. "I have traveled from Philadelphia to El Paso and then another 15 miles to find this ranch. I am here about the advertisement." Logan felt his stomach drop. "What advertisement?" Zelda's green eyes narrowed slightly, and he saw the first crack in her confident facade. "The advertisement for a housekeeper. It was placed in the Philadelphia Gazette 3 months ago, offering room, board, and wages to a woman willing to relocate to Texas to manage a ranch household. I never placed any such advertisement." But even as he said it, Logan knew exactly who had. His younger sister Emma, who had married a merchant in San Antonio last year, had been pestering him about finding someone to help around the place. She must have taken matters into her own hands before she left. The color drained from Zelda's face, and for the first time, he saw how exhausted she looked. Dark circles shadowed those green eyes, and her lips were chapped from the wind and sun. "I see," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I apologize for the intrusion, Mr. Garrett. If you could direct me to the nearest hotel in El Paso, I will make arrangements." She turned to leave, and Logan saw her sway slightly, catching herself on the porch railing. Something in his chest twisted. It was nearly dark, and the road back to El Paso was not safe to travel alone, especially for a woman on foot. He could see no horse, no wagon. "How did you get here?" he asked. "I walked from town. The livery wanted $3 for a horse rental, and I only had enough for lodging until tomorrow." Her chin lifted with pride despite the admission. "I thought I would have employment and could repay the debt." Logan ran a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of a decision he did not want to make. The sensible thing would be to give her a few dollars, send her back to town in the morning, and forget this ever happened. But he looked past her to the ranch that sprawled in all directions, the house that was falling into disrepair because he could not keep up with the cattle, the horses, the land, and the maintenance all by himself. He looked at the woman who had traveled halfway across the country on the promise of a job that did not exist. "Come inside," he said. "You can stay the night at least. We will figure out the rest in the morning." Zelda turned back to him, suspicion and hope warring in her expression. "I do not accept charity, Mr. Garrett. It is not charity. I am not sending a woman out into the dark alone on my conscience. You can sleep in the spare room and we will talk business when you have had some rest and food." He stepped back from the doorway. Take it or leave it, Miss Graham, but decide quickly because my supper is getting cold." She hesitated for only a moment before stepping across the threshold, and Logan felt the strange sensation that his life had just changed direction in a way he could not yet understand. The interior of the house was sparse but clean, or as clean as a bachelor could manage. The main room held the dining table, a few chairs, and a fireplace with embers still glowing. Logan gestured to one of the chairs while he went to the kitchen area and ladled stew from the pot hanging over the fire. "It is just rabbit and vegetables," he said, setting a bowl in front of her along with a chunk of bread. "Nothing fancy. It smells wonderful." Zelda removed her hat, revealing hair that was indeed as dark as he had thought, nearly black with hints of deep brown in the lamplight. She had a delicate face, but there was strength in the line of her jaw and the set of her mouth. "Thank you." They ate in silence for a while, and Logan found himself stealing glances at her between bites. She ate with careful manners, but he could tell she was hungry, the way she tried not to devour the food too quickly. When she had finished, she folded her hands in her lap and met his gaze directly. "I should explain my situation," Zelda said, "so you understand why I came so far on such uncertain terms. You do not owe me explanations. Perhaps not, but I would like to give them nonetheless." She took a breath. "My father was a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. He died 8 months ago, leaving debts I did not know existed. The house was sold to pay them, and I found myself with few options. I was engaged to be married, but when my circumstances changed, so did my fiancée's interest." Logan felt anger flare in his chest at the unknown man who would abandon a woman in need. "He sounds like a fool." A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "I have come to agree with that assessment. In any case, I saw the advertisement and thought it was Providence. A fresh start, honest work, and a place far from the pitying looks and whispered gossip of Philadelphia society. I saved what little I had, booked passage on a train, and here I am." "Here you are," Logan echoed. He studied her across the table, this determined woman who had risked everything on a job that turned out to be a fiction created by his well-meaning but meddling sister. "I truly did not place that advertisement, Miss Graham, but I cannot say it was entirely unwelcome." Her eyebrows rose. "Oh." "My sister Emma, she left for San Antonio when she married. Before that, she ran the household while I managed the ranch. Since she has been gone, things have gotten away from me. I can handle the cattle and the horses well enough, but the house, the garden, the daily details, they fall by the wayside." He gestured around the room, seeing it through her eyes. Clean enough but stark, missing the touches that made a house a home. "I could use help. And I can offer fair wages, room and board, just as the advertisement promised." Zelda leaned forward slightly. "You are offering me the position. I am offering you a trial period. 1 month. If it works out for both of us, we make it permanent. If not, I will pay your passage back to Philadelphia or wherever you want to go, plus wages for the time worked." "Fair." She stood abruptly, and for a moment he thought she might refuse, but then she extended her hand across the table. "More than fair, Mr. Garrett. You have a deal." Her hand was small in his, but her grip was firm. Logan shook it, trying to ignore the strange flutter in his chest at the contact. This was a business arrangement, nothing more. He was a rancher who needed help, and she was a woman who needed work. The fact that she had the most captivating green eyes he had ever seen was entirely irrelevant. He released her hand and stood as well. "I will show you to the spare room. It is not much, but the bed is good, and there are clean linens." The spare room had been Emma's before she married. It was small but had a window that faced east to catch the morning sun, a bed with an iron frame, a wardrobe, and a washstand. Logan lit the lamp on the bedside table while Zelda stood in the doorway. "It is perfect," she said softly. "Truly. Washroom is at the end of the hall. There is a pump in the kitchen for water. I will be up early to tend the animals, but you can sleep as long as you need. We will discuss your duties and such when you are rested. Mr. Garrett," he turned at the door. "Thank you. I know you did not have to do this." "Logan," he said. "If you are going to be working here, you should call me Logan. Then you should call me Zelda." He nodded, suddenly feeling awkward in a way he had not felt since he was a young man trying to talk to girls at church socials. "Good night, Zelda." "Good night, Logan." He closed the door and stood in the hallway for a moment, listening to the soft sounds of her moving around the room. Then he went to his own room at the other end of the house and lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what in God's name he had just gotten himself into. Sleep came eventually, but his dreams were filled with green eyes and the sound of a woman's voice calling his name. Logan woke before dawn, as he always did, and dressed quietly in the dark. He half expected the previous evening to have been a dream, but when he passed the spare room, he could hear the soft sound of breathing from within. Zelda was real, and she was here. And now he had to figure out how to manage a ranch while sharing his space with a woman he found far too distracting for his peace of mind. He went through his morning routine automatically, feeding the chickens, collecting eggs, checking on the horses in the stable, and inspecting the fences in the near pastures. The sun was well up by the time he returned to the house, expecting to find Zelda still asleep. Instead, he found her in the kitchen, wearing a simple work dress he recognized as having belonged to Emma, her hair in a practical braid, cooking breakfast. "I hope you do not mind," she said without turning around. "I found some eggs and bacon, and I thought I should earn my keep." "I do not mind." He hung his hat by the door and washed his hands in the basin. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I have in months. That bed is remarkably comfortable." She plated the food and brought it to the table. "I also took the liberty of exploring the house a bit." "I hope that was not too presumptuous. It is your workplace now, you should know your way around." He sat down and she joined him. The eggs were perfectly cooked, the bacon crispy, and there was fresh coffee that tasted better than anything he had made in recent memory. "This is excellent." "Cooking is one of the few practical skills I possess," Zelda said with a slight smile. "My father believed in education for women, but my mother insisted I also learn domestic arts. At the time, I resented the hours spent in the kitchen. Now I am grateful." They ate together as the morning light filled the room, and Logan found himself relaxing in her presence. There was something calming about sharing a meal with another person, about the quiet conversation and the simple domesticity of it all. After breakfast, he showed her around the ranch properly. The house sat on a slight rise, with the barn and stables to the west, the chicken coop and small vegetable garden to the south, and the endless Texas grassland stretching in all directions. The nearest neighbor was 5 miles away, and El Paso was 15 miles to the east. It was isolated, but Logan had always found peace in the solitude. "It is beautiful," Zelda said, shading her eyes as she looked out over the land. "So much space." In Philadelphia, everything was crowded together, buildings pressing against each other like they were fighting for room to breathe. "Does it not feel lonely?" Logan asked, curious. "All this emptiness." She turned to him, and there was something in her expression he could not quite read. "I think loneliness has more to do with the company you keep than the space around you. You can be lonely in a crowded city just as easily as on an empty prairie." Her words struck something deep inside him, a truth he had been avoiding for years. He had told himself he was content alone, that he did not need anyone, But the reality was that he had been profoundly lonely since his family left and died. He just had not wanted to admit it. "I suppose that is true," he said quietly. They walked back to the house, and Logan outlined what he hoped she could manage: keeping the house clean and in good repair, cooking meals, tending the vegetable garden, managing the chickens and egg production, and helping with the mending and laundry. In return, he would pay her $30 a month plus room and board. "That is more than generous," Zelda said. "It is fair for the work, and I want you to know you are safe here. I will not, that is, I would never, you have my word as a gentleman." He stumbled over the words, feeling heat rise in his face. Zelda placed a hand on his arm, and even through the fabric of his shirt, he felt the warmth of her touch. "I know. I would not have stayed otherwise. Despite the circumstances, I am a good judge of character, Logan. I trust you." Her trust felt like a precious thing, not to be taken lightly. Logan nodded, not trusting himself to speak. The days began to develop a rhythm. Logan would wake early and tend to the ranch while Zelda managed the house. They would eat breakfast together, then go about their separate tasks, coming together again for the midday meal and supper. In the evenings, they would sit on the porch and watch the sun set, talking about everything and nothing. Logan learned that Zelda loved to read, that she had a sharp mind and a quick wit, that she missed her father terribly but spoke of him with love rather than bitterness. She learned that Logan had always dreamed of expanding the ranch, that he played the harmonica his father had given him when he was 10, that he believed in hard work and keeping his word above all else. 2 weeks into her stay, a summer storm rolled in with little warning. Logan was out checking the cattle in the far pasture when the sky opened up, and by the time he made it back to the house, he was soaked to the skin. Zelda met him at the door with towels and worry in her eyes. "I was about to ride out looking for you," she said, helping him out of his dripping coat. "In this weather, that would have been foolish." But he was touched by her concern, no more foolish than you being out in it. She draped a towel over his shoulders. "Go change into dry clothes before you catch your death. I will heat water for tea." He did as he was told, and when he returned to the main room, she had a fire going in the fireplace and hot tea waiting. They sat together, listening to the rain hammer against the roof and watching lightning flash through the windows. "I love storms," Zelda said softly. "They remind you how small you are, how little control you really have over anything. That is a strange thing to love, is it?" She turned to him, firelight dancing in her eyes. "I think there is something freeing about admitting you are not in control, that you can only do your best and trust that things will work out as they are meant to." Logan thought about that, about his years of trying to control everything, to manage the ranch alone, to prove he did not need anyone. Where had it gotten him? To a lonely house and a life half-lived. "You are a wise woman, Zelda Graham," he said, "not wise. Just well acquainted with loss and learning to make peace with it." The storm raged through the night, and Logan lay in bed listening to it, thinking about the woman sleeping down the hall. The month trial period was more than half over, and he could not imagine the house without her anymore. More than that, he could not imagine his life without her. Somewhere in the quiet conversations and shared meals, in the way she hummed while she worked and the sound of her laughter, he had started falling for her. It terrified him. He was just a rancher, a man with calloused hands and simple dreams. She was educated, refined, from a world of universities and society that he knew nothing about. What could he possibly offer her beyond a roof over her head and wages? She deserved so much more than this hard life on an isolated ranch in Texas. But even as he thought it, he remembered what she had said about loneliness, about making peace with loss. Maybe she was not looking for grand gestures and easy comfort. Maybe she was looking for exactly what he could offer: honesty, safety, and a place to belong. The next morning dawned clear and washed clean by the rain. Logan found Zelda in the garden, examining the plants after the storm. Her dress was already muddy at the hem, and she had dirt on her cheek, and she had never looked more beautiful to him. "Everything survived," she said, smiling up at him. "I was worried about the tomatoes, but they are fine." "Zelda." His voice came out rougher than he intended. "Can I talk to you about something?" She straightened, concern crossing her face. "Of course. What is wrong?" "Nothing is wrong. That is, everything is right, and that is the problem." He was making a mess of this. Logan took off his hat and turned it in his hands, a nervous habit. "The month trial is almost up." "Oh." Her face fell and she looked down at her muddy hands. "I see. I thought things were going well, but if you would prefer to find someone else, I understand. I can be packed by tomorrow." "No." He said it too loudly and she startled. "No, that is not what I meant at all. I want you to stay, permanently, not just as the housekeeper." Zelda's eyes went wide. "I do not understand." Logan stepped closer to her, close enough to see the flecks of gold in her green eyes, close enough to catch the scent of lavender soap she used. "I am not good with words, Zelda. I am just a rancher, and I know this life is hard and lonely, and I have no right to ask this of you. But somewhere in the past few weeks, you have become more than just help around the ranch. You have become the best part of my day. I find myself hurrying through my work just to get back to the house, to hear about your day, to see you smile. I think about you constantly, and I know I am probably crazy for saying all this when you have only been here 3 weeks, but I cannot keep it to myself anymore." She stared at him, her lips parted in surprise, and Logan felt his heart hammering against his ribs. He had laid himself bare, and now he had to wait for her response, for the inevitable gentle rejection. "You think about me constantly." Zelda's voice was barely above a whisper. "Constantly," he confirmed. "From the moment I wake up until I fall asleep, and then I dream about you too." A slow smile spread across her face, lighting her up from within. "I think about you too. I have been trying trying to maintain professional distance, but it is impossible. You are kind and hardworking and honest in a way I have never encountered before. When you look at me, I do not see pity or judgment or calculation. I just see someone who sees me, truly sees me for who I am." Logan's breath caught in his chest. "Are you saying what I think you are saying?" "I am saying that I did not come to Texas looking for love, but I found it anyway. With you." She closed the distance between them, reaching up to touch his face with her dirt-stained hand. "I am saying that if you are asking me to stay, not as your housekeeper but as something more, then my answer is yes. Absolutely yes." He caught her hand in his, pressing it against his cheek, hardly daring to believe this was real. "I am not a rich man, Zelda. I cannot give you the life you had in Philadelphia. I do not want that life. I want this one with you, building something real and honest together." She smiled up at him. "Besides, I think I look rather good covered in Texas dirt, do you not agree?" Logan laughed, the sound surprised out of him by her teasing. Then, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, he lowered his head and kissed her. Her lips were soft and warm, and she tasted like the mint tea she drank every morning. She rose on her toes, kissing him back with a sweet enthusiasm that made his head spin. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Logan rested his forehead against hers. "I have never felt like this before," he admitted. "I did not think I was capable of it." "Neither did I," Zelda said. "After my engagement ended, I thought I was broken somehow, unable to feel deeply for anyone. But you proved me wrong." They stood together in the garden, holding each other while the morning sun climbed higher and the day began in earnest around them. Eventually, Practicality reasserted itself, and they returned to their work, but everything felt different now. The air seemed clearer, the colors brighter, the future full of possibility instead of just more of the same. That evening, Logan played his harmonica while Zelda sat beside him on the porch, and when he finished the song, she leaned her head on his shoulder. It felt like the most natural thing in the world. "We should talk about the practical matters," Zelda said. "What this means, how we proceed." "I suppose we should court properly," Logan said. "Though given that we live under the same roof, that might be complicated. Unconventional, perhaps, but not improper. We have behaved with perfect propriety thus far." She lifted her head to look at him. "Though I confess, after that kiss this morning, I am finding propriety somewhat tiresome." He felt heat rise in his face. "Zelda Graham, are you trying to scandalize me? Is it working?" "Somewhat," he grinned at her. "But I think you are right. We should do this properly, take our time, make sure this is real and not just the result of proximity and loneliness." "Very sensible," Zelda agreed. "Though I already know it is real, I have never been more certain of anything. Neither have I, but I want to do right by you. Court you the way you deserve, ask your hand in marriage properly, give you the wedding you should have." She was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. "My father used to say that the measure of a man was not in his words but in his actions. That anyone could make promises, but only a person of true character would keep them. You have kept every promise you made to me, Logan, from that first night when you offered me shelter. I trust you completely." Logan took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "Then I promise you this. I will court you honorably, I will marry you properly if you will have me, and I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret taking a chance on a lonely rancher in Texas." "I could never regret this," Zelda said. "Never." The weeks that followed were some of the happiest of Logan's life. He courted Zelda in the traditional way, or as traditional as their situation allowed. He brought her wildflowers from the prairie, took her riding through the ranch to show her all his favorite places, and taught her to rope a fence post, which she was surprisingly good at. She cooked his favorite meals, mended his clothes with careful stitches, and filled the house with laughter and music when she sang while working. They were careful to maintain separate bedrooms and propriety in all things, but the attraction between them was undeniable. Sometimes Logan would catch her looking at him while he worked, and the heat in her gaze made his mouth go dry. Sometimes she would brush past him in the kitchen, and the brief contact would send electricity racing through his veins. They were adults, not children, and they both knew where this was heading, but they were determined to do things right. One evening, about 2 months after Zelda first arrived, Logan rode into El Paso on an errand he had been planning for weeks. He went to the jeweler on Main Street, a small shop run by a craftsman named Mr. Kowalski who had come from Poland 20 years ago. "I need a ring," Logan told him. "An engagement ring." Mr. Kowalski smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Ah, so the rumors are true. You have found yourself a bride. I am going to ask her, at least. I hope she says yes. From what I hear, she would be a fool to say no. Let me show you what I have." Logan looked at several options, but nothing felt right until Mr. Kowalski brought out a ring with a small emerald flanked by 2 tiny diamonds. "This one," the jeweler said, "I made for my own wife many years ago, but she preferred sapphires. It has been sitting in my collection ever since." The emerald reminded me of spring, of new beginnings. Logan thought of Zelda's green eyes, of the new life they were building together. "It is perfect. How much?" They negotiated a fair price, and Logan left the shop with the ring burning a hole in his pocket. He had a plan for how to propose, a special place on the ranch that he wanted to show her, but as he rode back in the fading light, he felt nerves flutter in his stomach. What if she had changed her mind? What if she realized she deserved better than what he could offer? But when he arrived home and saw her waiting on the porch, her face lighting up at the sight of him, all his doubts evaporated. This was right. They were right together. "I was starting to worry," Zelda said as he dismounted. "You were gone longer than expected. I had an important errand." He looped his horse's reins over the porch rail and climbed the steps to stand in front of her. "Zelda, there is something I want to show you. Will you take a walk with me?" She looked at him curiously but nodded. "Of course." He took her hand, and they walked together through the ranch as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold. He led her to the top of a small hill about half a mile from the house, a place where you could see for miles in every direction. The wind whispered through the grass, and somewhere in the distance cattle lowed. "This is my favorite spot on the entire ranch," Logan said. "When I was a boy, I would come up here to think, to dream about the future. I imagined what my life would be like, what I would accomplish, but I never imagined anything as wonderful as this." "As what?" Zelda asked softly. "As you, as us." He turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "3 months ago, I was alone and convinced that was how I would stay. I had resigned myself to a solitary life, and I told myself I was content with it. Then you knocked on my door and everything changed." Tears glistened in Zelda's eyes, catching the last light of the sun. "Logan, I know we have not known each other long by some standards, but I know my own heart. I love you, Zelda Graham. I love your strength and your kindness, your sharp mind and your gentle spirit. I love the way you sing while you work and the way you look at the world with wonder. I love how you make this house feel like a home again. I want to spend the rest of my life loving you, if you will let me." He released one of her hands to reach into his pocket, pulling out the ring. Then he lowered himself to one knee on the hilltop, looking up at the woman who had changed his entire world. "Zelda Graham, will you marry me?" She was crying now, tears streaming down her face, but she was smiling too, radiant with joy. "Yes," she said. "Yes, absolutely yes." "I love you too, Logan. I love you so much." He stood and slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, the emerald catching the fading light. Then he pulled her into his arms and kissed her, pouring all his love and hope and gratitude into it. She kissed him back with equal fervor, her hands fisting in his shirt. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Zelda laughed and cried at the same time. "An emerald! Logan, it is beautiful. It reminded me of your eyes," he said. "Of the first time I saw you, standing on my porch looking like you were ready to take on the world." "I was terrified," she admitted. "I had gambled everything on a job that did not exist, and I was trying so hard not to show how scared I was. You are the bravest person I know." He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Coming all this way on faith, starting over in a place where you knew no one, that takes real courage. So does opening your heart after convincing yourself you did not need anyone," Zelda countered. "We are both brave, I think. Brave enough to take a chance on love." They stood together on the hilltop as the stars began to emerge, talking about their future. They decided to marry in 6 weeks, giving them time to make arrangements and for Zelda to write to what remained of her family in Philadelphia. Logan wanted to build an addition to the house, extra bedrooms for the children they both hoped to have someday. Zelda wanted to expand the garden and maybe get some goats for milk and cheese. "I never thought I would be excited about goats," Logan said, making her laugh. "Life is full of surprises." They walked back to the house hand in hand, and Logan felt a contentment he had never known before. This was what he had been missing all those years alone. This partnership, this sharing of dreams and plans, this sense of building something together that was greater than the sum of its parts. The next 6 weeks passed in a flurry of activity. Logan rode to San Antonio to invite his sister Emma and her husband to the wedding, and Emma cried with happiness and confessed that she had indeed placed the advertisement, hoping against hope that it would bring Logan the companion he needed. "I knew you would never look for someone on your own," Emma said. "You are too stubborn, so I took matters into my own hands." "I should be angry with you for meddling," Logan said, "but I cannot be. You gave me the greatest gift of my life." Emma had insisted on helping plan the wedding, and she arrived 2 weeks before the ceremony with her husband Robert, and enough supplies to host a celebration for the whole county. Zelda and Emma took to each other immediately, bonding over their shared love for Logan and their determination to make the wedding perfect. They decided to hold the ceremony at the ranch, with the reception in the barn that Logan and Robert spent a week cleaning and decorating. Invitations were sent to the neighboring ranchers, to the people Logan did business with in El Paso, to the few friends each of them had in the area. Zelda wrote a long letter to her aunt in Philadelphia, the only family she had left, but knew the woman was too frail to travel so far. The day before the wedding, Logan was helping Robert hang lanterns in the barn when his friend spoke up. "You know, I never thought I would see you like this. Happy, I mean, really happy." Logan paused in his work. "Was I so miserable before? Not miserable exactly. Just going through the motions, surviving rather than living. But now there is a light in you that was not there before. She is good for you." "She is everything," Logan said simply. "I did not know I was only half alive until she showed me what it felt like to be whole." Robert clapped him on the shoulder. "That is how I feel about Emma. That is how everyone should feel about the person they marry. You are a lucky man, Logan Garrett. I know." The wedding day dawned clear and beautiful, with a sky so blue it almost hurt to look at. Logan dressed in his best suit, the one he had bought for his mother's funeral and had not worn since. He stood in front of the mirror in his bedroom, trying to get his tie straight, and realized his hands were shaking. Robert knocked and entered, taking over the tie with a knowing smile. "Nervous." "Terrified," Logan admitted. "What if I am not a good husband? What if I disappoint her?" "Then you apologize and do better the next day. That is all any of us can do." Robert finished the tie and stepped back. "But I do not think you will disappoint her. I have seen the way she looks at you, Logan. That woman loves you completely." Logan thought of Zelda, somewhere in the house getting ready with Emma's help, and felt his nerves settle. Robert was right. They loved each other, and they would figure out the rest together. The ceremony was held on the same hilltop where Logan had proposed, with Pastor Williams from the El Paso church officiating. Chairs had been set up for the guests, maybe 30 people in all, and flowers from Zelda's garden decorated everything. Logan stood at the front with Robert beside him as his best man, watching the path for his bride. When she appeared, his breath caught in his chest. Emma had lent her a wedding dress, white lace with a high collar and long sleeves, and Zelda had woven wildflowers into her dark hair. She carried a bouquet of more wildflowers, and she was the most beautiful thing Logan had ever seen. She walked toward him with her head high and a smile on her face, and when she reached him, she took his hands without hesitation. "Dearly beloved," Pastor Williams began, and Logan barely heard the words. He was too focused on Zelda, on the joy in her green eyes and the way her hands trembled slightly in his. They exchanged vows, promising to love and honor and cherish each other for all their days. When Pastor Williams pronounced them husband and wife and told Logan he could kiss his bride, Logan cupped her face in his hands and kissed her tenderly, aware of all the people watching but unable to bring himself to care. "I love you, Mrs. Garrett," he whispered against her lips. "I love you too, Mr. Garrett," she whispered back. The reception in the barn was lively, with food and music and dancing. Logan was not much of a dancer, but he led Zelda through a waltz, holding her close and marveling at the fact that she was his wife now. They cut the cake Emma had made, a beautiful three-tiered creation, and toasted each other with champagne that Robert had brought from San Antonio. As the sun set and lantern light filled the barn, Logan and Zelda slipped away from the party, walking hand in hand back to the house. Emma and Robert would stay in the barn loft for the night, giving the newlyweds their privacy. Inside the house that was now truly their home together, Logan turned to Zelda, suddenly feeling shy. They had been so careful these past months, maintaining propriety, but now there were no more barriers between them. "Are you nervous?" Zelda asked softly. "A little," he admitted. "You, a little." She smiled and reached up to loosen his tie. "But I trust you, Logan, completely." "And I trust you." He caught her hands, bringing them to his lips. "I want to make you happy, Zelda, always. You already do, every day, just by being who you are." They came together slowly, tenderly, learning each other in the way of newlyweds. Logan had been with a woman before, once, years ago, but this was different. This was his wife, the woman he loved, and every touch felt sacred. Zelda was less experienced, but she met him with a passion that took his breath away. And together, they discovered the physical expression of the love they had already built in words and gestures. Afterward, they lay tangled together in his bed, now their bed, and Logan held her close, feeling her heartbeat against his chest. "I used to think I knew what my life would be," he said into the darkness. "Just me and the ranch, year after year, until I got too old to manage it and had to sell. It seemed fine, adequate, but now I realize how empty it would have been." Zelda propped herself up on one elbow to look at him, her dark hair falling around her shoulders. "I used to think my life was planned too. Professor's wife, Philadelphia society, predictable and safe. When it all fell apart, I thought I had lost everything. But I had really just lost what was never meant to be mine in the first place. I had to lose that life to find this one with you." "Are you happy?" Logan asked, needing to hear it. "Happier than I ever imagined possible. Are you?" "Beyond measure." She kissed him again, sweet and slow, and they made love once more, less tentative this time, learning what pleased each other, building the intimacy that would sustain them through all the years to come. The next morning they woke late and stayed in bed longer, talking and laughing and simply enjoying the freedom of being married, of not having to hold back anymore. Eventually, hunger drove them to the kitchen, where they made breakfast together, stealing kisses between tasks. Emma and Robert left that afternoon, heading back to San Antonio, and Logan and Zelda were alone again, but it was a different kind of alone now. The house felt full, alive, blessed with their love. The seasons turned and they settled into married life. Zelda proved to be not just a capable housekeeper, but a true partner in running the ranch. She took over the business side of things, managing the accounts and negotiating prices with buyers, and Logan discovered she had a head for numbers that far exceeded his own. Together, they made the ranch more profitable than it had ever been. In the spring, they expanded the garden just as Zelda had wanted, and she did indeed get goats, 3 of them, which she named after characters from her favorite books. Logan pretended to be exasperated by the literary goats, but Zelda caught him more than once talking to them while he did his chores. Summer brought long, hot days of hard work, but also evenings on the porch where they would sit together and watch the sun set, planning improvements to the ranch and dreaming about the future. Logan built the addition to the house, 3 new bedrooms in anticipation of children, and Zelda made curtains for the windows and filled the rooms with hope. In the fall, Zelda began to feel ill in the mornings, and when the doctor from El Paso came to examine her, he confirmed what they had both suspected. She was with child. Logan was beside himself with joy, already planning how he would teach his son or daughter to ride, to love the land, to appreciate the simple beauty of a Texas sunset. "What if I am not a good mother?" Zelda asked one night as they lay in bed, Logan's hand resting on her still flat stomach. "You will be magnificent," Logan assured her. "You are kind and patient and wise. Our child will be lucky to have you." "Our child will be lucky to have both of us," she corrected. "You will be a wonderful father, Logan." The pregnancy progressed smoothly, and as Zelda's belly grew, so did Logan's sense of awe. He had helped birth countless calves and foals, but this was different. This was his child, the product of his love for Zelda, and the magnitude of it sometimes overwhelmed him. Winter came, and with it, Zelda's time drew near. Emma arrived 2 weeks before the baby was due, determined to help her sister-in-law through the birth. The midwife from El Paso, a capable woman named Mrs. Chen, came to stay at the ranch as well, wanting to be on hand when the labor started. It happened on a cold January night. Logan was sleeping when Zelda shook him awake, her face tight with pain. "It is time." Everything became a blur after that. Emma and Mrs. Chen took over, sending Logan out of the room despite his protests. He paced the main room for hours, listening to Zelda's cries and feeling utterly helpless. Robert had told him that waiting for a child to be born was the hardest thing a man would ever do, and Logan now understood completely. Finally, as dawn light began to creep through the windows, he heard a different cry, the thin, reedy wail of a newborn. Logan's heart leaped into his throat. Emma emerged from the bedroom smiling and exhausted. "You have a son," she said. "A big, healthy boy, and Zelda is fine, tired but fine." Logan nearly collapsed with relief. "Can I see them?" "Give Mrs. Chen a few more minutes to clean up, then yes." The longest minutes of his life passed before Mrs. Chen opened the door and beckoned him inside. Zelda was propped up in bed, pale and sweaty but radiant, holding a small bundle wrapped in blankets. Logan approached slowly, almost afraid to breathe. "Logan," Zelda said softly, "come meet your son." He sat on the edge of the bed and looked down at the baby in her arms. He was red-faced and wrinkled, with a shock of dark hair and tiny fists waving in the air. Logan had never seen anything so perfect in his life. "Can I hold him?" he asked. Zelda carefully transferred the baby to his arms, and Logan cradled his son against his chest, marveling at how small he was, how fragile. The baby opened his eyes, dark blue like all newborns, and seemed to look directly at his father. "Hello, little one," Logan whispered. "I am your father, and I promise you, I will do everything in my power to give you a good life. I will teach you to be honest and kind, to work hard and love deeply. You are already so loved, more than you can possibly know." Tears streamed down his face, and he did not try to stop them. Zelda reached up to wipe them away, her own eyes wet. "What should we name him?" she asked. They had discussed names for months but had never quite decided. Now, looking at his son, Logan knew. "Lucas, after my father. Lucas Gabriel Garrett." "Lucas," Zelda repeated, smiling. "It is perfect." "Welcome to the world, Lucas." The baby yawned. A tiny squeaking sound, and both parents laughed through their tears. Emma and Mrs. Chen left them alone, and Logan lay down beside Zelda, their son between them, and the three of them slept as the sun rose on a new day. Being parents changed everything and nothing. The ranch still needed to be run, animals still needed tending, but now there was a baby to care for as well. Logan found himself waking in the night to help with Lucas, changing diapers and walking the floor with his son when he fussed. He had never imagined he could love anything as much as he loved Zelda, but Lucas expanded his heart in ways he had not known were possible. Zelda proved to be a natural mother, though she struggled with exhaustion in the early weeks. Logan did everything he could to support her, taking on more of the household tasks and hiring a young man from town to help with the ranch work so he could spend more time with his family. Lucas grew quickly, changing almost daily. His eyes shifted from newborn blue to green like his mother's, and his personality began to emerge. He was a happy baby, quick to smile and laugh, and he seemed to find wonder in everything around him. When Lucas was 6 months old, Logan took him out to see the ranch, carrying him in a sling Zelda had made. He showed his son the horses, the cattle, the endless Texas sky. "This will all be yours someday," Logan told him. "Yours to care for and pass on to your own children. But I hope you will learn to love it the way I do, not as property but as a trust, something precious to be nurtured." Lucas babbled in response, reaching for his father's face, and Logan kissed his tiny hand. The years unfolded like a story, each season bringing new joys and challenges. Lucas learned to walk, to talk, to ride a horse before he could properly read. Logan taught him everything he knew about ranching, about the land, about being a good man. Zelda taught him to read and write, to love learning, to think critically about the world. When Lucas was 3, Zelda became pregnant again. This time, she gave birth to a daughter they named Lily Grace, who had her father's dark hair and her mother's determination. Logan had not thought his heart could hold any more love, but Lily proved him wrong. 2 years after Lily came another son, James, named after Zelda's father, the professor she still missed. James was quieter than his siblings, thoughtful and observant, and Logan saw Zelda's intelligence shining in his eyes. The ranch thrived under Logan and Zelda's management. They added more land, improved the bloodlines of their cattle, and became known throughout the region for fair dealing and quality stock. But more than professional success, they built a life rich with love and laughter. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Logan took Zelda back to the hilltop where he had proposed. The children were with Emma and Robert in San Antonio for the week, giving them some rare time alone. "Do you ever regret it?" Logan asked as they sat together watching the sunset, just as they had all those years ago. "Giving up your life in Philadelphia, settling for a rancher in Texas." Zelda turned to him, cupping his face in her hands. "I have never settled for anything. I chose you, Logan. I choose you every day. This life we have built together, our children, this ranch, it is beyond anything I could have imagined when I knocked on your door all those years ago." "I thought I would grow old alone," Logan said, echoing the fear that had haunted him for so long before she came. "I had resigned myself to it. Then you knocked and changed everything." "We changed each other," Zelda said. "You gave me a home when I had nowhere to go, but more than that, you gave me purpose and partnership and love. You saw me, not as a burden or a charity case, but as someone with value and strength. You believed in me when I had stopped believing in myself." Logan kissed her, deep and slow, tasting the years of love and devotion in that kiss. "I will never stop believing in you, or us, nor will I." They made love on the hilltop under the stars, as free and passionate as they had been on their wedding night, the years having only deepened their connection. Afterward, they lay wrapped in blankets, talking about their children, about the future, about the grandchildren they hope to have someday. "Lucas will take over the ranch when he is ready," Logan said. "He has the love for it, but Lily, I think she will be something else entirely. Did you see her dissecting that flower yesterday, trying to understand how it grew?" Zelda laughed. "She has a scientific mind, that one. Maybe she will be a doctor or a botanist, And James will probably be a professor like your father with all those books he is always reading. Whatever they become, they will be good people. We are raising them well, Logan. We are, he agreed, pulling her closer. Together. The children grew, and the ranch grew with them. Lucas became Logan's right hand, working alongside his father from sunrise to sunset, learning every aspect of ranching. True to predictions, Lily developed a passion for medicine, devouring every book she could find on the subject and apprenticing with Dr. Martinez in El Paso when she was 16. James did indeed love books and learning, and when he was 18, he went east to university, though he always came home for summers and holidays. Logan and Zelda aged gracefully, their hair going gray, their faces gaining lines, but their love never dimming. If anything, it grew stronger, tested and proven by years of partnership, of raising children together, of facing challenges and celebrating triumphs side by side. When Logan was 58 and Zelda 53, Lucas married a woman named Sarah from a neighboring ranch, and they moved into a house Logan built for them on the property. A year later, they made Logan and Zelda grandparents with the birth of a little girl named Charlotte. Holding his granddaughter for the first time, Logan felt the circle of life complete itself. He thought of his own parents, gone so many years now, and wished they could have met Zelda and known their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. But he also felt their presence, their legacy living on in the values he had passed to his children and would now be passed to another generation. "What are you thinking?" Zelda asked, watching him cradle Charlotte. "I am thinking about how lucky I am," Logan said. "How one knock on a door changed the entire trajectory of my life. How I went from a lonely man in an empty house to this, surrounded by family and love and purpose." "I am the lucky one," Zelda insisted. "I was lost, truly lost, and you gave me a compass to find my way home." "We are both lucky then." Charlotte grew, and more grandchildren followed. Lily, who had become a doctor just as predicted, married a fellow physician and had twin boys. James married a teacher and had 3 daughters. The ranch that had once been silent and lonely now rang with the voices of children, with family gatherings and celebrations. On their 30th wedding anniversary, Logan and Zelda sat on the porch of the house they had shared for 3 decades, watching their grandchildren play in the yard. Lucas and Sarah were managing the ranch now, with Logan serving as an advisor, finally slowing down in his later years. "You remember what you said to me that first night?" Zelda asked. "When I showed up unexpected and uninvited on your doorstep." Logan thought back to that evening, to the frightened but determined woman standing in the sunset light. "I said you could stay the night, that we would figure out the rest in the morning. And we did. We have been figuring it out together ever since." She took his hand, her fingers interlaced with his in a gesture that had become as natural as breathing over the years. "I could not have asked for a better partner to figure life out with. Nor could I." Logan lifted her hand to his lips, kissing it tenderly. "You are still the most beautiful woman I have ever seen, you know. More beautiful now than the day we met." Zelda laughed, the sound still as bright and joyful as it had been 30 years ago. "You are biased and going blind in your old age, but I love you for saying it anyway. I mean it. You are beautiful because of the life we have lived together, the love we have shared, the family we have built. All of that shines through you." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set, painting the Texas sky in familiar shades of orange and pink and gold. The same sky Logan had watched alone for so many years, but now infinitely more beautiful because he shared it with someone he loved. One of their grandsons ran up to the porch, breathless and excited. "Grandpa Logan, Grandma Zelda, will you tell us the story again, about how you met?" Logan looked at Zelda and she nodded with a smile. Soon all the grandchildren had gathered, sitting on the porch steps and the grass, looking up with eager faces. "Well," Logan began, "it was a summer evening much like this one, and I was alone in this house, thinking I would always be alone. Then there came a knock at the door, 3 sharp raps that changed my life forever." Zelda picked up the story. "I had traveled all the way from Philadelphia, thousands of miles, on the promise of a job that did not exist. I was scared and exhausted and running out of options. But I knocked on that door anyway because sometimes you have to take a leap of faith." Together, they told the story they had told many times before, of the unexpected meeting, the growing love, the proposal on the hilltop, the wedding in the barn. The children listened, enraptured as always, even though they knew every detail by heart. When the story was finished, little Charlotte asked, "Grandpa, were you really going to grow old alone?" Logan pulled her onto his lap, settling her against his chest. "I thought I was, sweetheart. I had convinced myself that I did not need anyone, that I was content with just the ranch and my work. But I was wrong. I needed love, family, connection. I just did not know it yet." "But Grandma found you," Charlotte said. "We found each other," Zelda corrected gently. "Sometimes the best things in life happen when you least expect them, when you are brave enough to take chances and trust in the future." The children eventually dispersed, called to dinner by their parents, and Logan and Zelda were alone again on the porch. The stars were emerging one by one, the same stars that had watched over them for 30 years of marriage. "I have been thinking," Logan said, "about what comes next after I am gone." "Logan Garrett, do not talk like that. You are healthy and strong." "I am getting older, Zelda. We both are. And I want to make sure you know, truly know, that you have been the greatest blessing of my life. Every moment we have shared, every challenge we have overcome, every joy we have celebrated, it has all been richer and deeper because of you." Zelda's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. "You have been my blessing too. You saved me, Logan, in every way a person can be saved. You gave me hope when I had none, purpose when I was adrift, and love beyond my wildest dreams. I could never regret knocking on your door that evening. It was the best decision I ever made." "Second best," Logan corrected. "The best decision was saying yes when I asked you to marry me. You are right. That was the best decision." They kissed, tender and sweet, the kiss of a couple who had spent 3 decades learning each other, loving each other, building a life together from nothing but determination and hope. Many more years passed, blessed years full of love and family. Logan lived to see all his grandchildren grown, to meet several great-grandchildren, to celebrate his 50th wedding anniversary with Zelda, surrounded by the family they had created together. The ranch continued to prosper under Lucas's management, and Logan took deep satisfaction in knowing that the legacy would continue. When Logan was 76, he fell ill with pneumonia in the winter. Despite Dr. Lily's best efforts, despite Zelda never leaving his side, he knew his time was coming to an end. He faced it without fear, content with the life he had lived. On a quiet February morning, surrounded by his family, Logan took Zelda's hand one last time. "I am not afraid," he told her. "I have lived a full life, a blessed life, all because of you. Do not leave me," Zelda whispered, though she knew it was futile. "I am not ready to say goodbye. You are the strongest woman I know. You will be fine." He smiled at her, the same smile that had made her heart flutter 50 years ago. "I will be waiting for you, my love, and we will have eternity together. I love you, Logan Garrett. I have loved you from almost the first moment I saw you, and I will love you until my last breath and beyond. And I love you, Zelda. You made me whole. You made my life worth living." He closed his eyes then, peaceful and content, and slipped away with his beloved wife holding his hand and his family surrounding him in love. Zelda mourned deeply, but she did not break. She had Logan's strength in her, his legacy all around her in the ranch and the family they had built. She lived another 12 years, spending them with her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, telling them stories of their grandfather, keeping his memory alive. When Zelda was 87, she went to sleep one night and did not wake up. She passed peacefully, with a smile on her face, and those who found her said it looked like she was dreaming of something wonderful. They buried her next to Logan on the hilltop where he had proposed, where they had made so many plans and dreamed so many dreams together. The entire family gathered for the funeral, spanning 4 generations now, all of them alive because a lonely rancher had opened his door to a determined woman, and they had chosen to build a life together. Lucas, now an old man himself, stood at his mother's grave and spoke the eulogy. "My father used to say that he thought he would grow old alone, that he had resigned himself to a solitary life. Then my mother knocked on his door and changed everything. She changed him from a man just surviving to a man truly living. And together, they built something beautiful that will last for generations. We are all here because of their love, because they were brave enough to take a chance on each other. That is the legacy they leave us, not just this ranch or this land, but the example of what love can build when 2 people commit to each other fully and completely." The family stood together as the sun set over the Texas prairie, the same sunset Logan and Zelda had watched together for 50 years, and they celebrated 2 lives well lived, 2 hearts that had found each other against all odds and created something eternal. Years later, when Charlotte's own granddaughter asked about the family history, she told the story just as it had been told to her, of the lonely rancher and the determined woman, of the knock on the door that changed everything, of the love that built a legacy. And the story lived on, passed from generation to generation, a reminder that sometimes the greatest adventures begin with a single act of courage, a leap of faith, and a knock on an unexpected door. The ranch still stands, now in its 6th generation of Garretts, and on the hilltop where Logan proposed to Zelda, their graves remain side by side, 2 headstones bearing the simple inscription, "Together forever, as we always were." And on summer evenings, when the sun sets over the Texas prairie in shades of orange and pink and gold, if you listen carefully, some say you can almost hear the sound of laughter, of a harmonica playing, of 2 voices talking and dreaming together, echoes of a love that death could not diminish and time could not fade. The story of Logan and Zelda became legendary in El Paso and the surrounding counties, told and retold as an example of how fate works in mysterious ways, how love can bloom in the most unexpected circumstances, how 2 lonely souls can find each other even in the vastness of the Texas prairie. It reminded people that it is never too late to change your life, to take a chance, to open your door to possibility. And every year, on the anniversary of that first knock, the Garrett family gathers at the ranch for a celebration. They share meals and stories, they visit the graves on the hilltop, and they toast to Logan and Zelda, the lonely rancher and the determined woman who built an empire of love that would outlast them both.